Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
I want to just tell them to not panic, I think, mostly. It goes really for the 3 and 24. You know, the first time you sit down with the race materials, you get this course book and all these maps and everything, like really overwhelming.
Well, you know, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
I need you, brother. Please, Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it.
Courage. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you.
Say the word, Chef.
Let it rip.
The Dark Zone is so excited for the return of one of the original Adventure Addicts races. That's right, folks. Break the Habit is back in 2026 and heading to the mountains of beautiful West Virginia. On May 30th and 31st, teams will take on to 24 to 30 hours of trekking, pack rafting, mountain biking, and elite navigation in Pocahontas County, one of the most rugged and adventurous regions in the whole state. We're talking about the heart of the Monongahela National Forest, 5 state parks, 2 state forests, 400 miles of trails, legendary mountain biking, and free-flowing rivers. It's a true playground for adventure racing. Like all Adventure Addicts events, Break the Habit is designed to let teams create their own adventure. You'll choose routes that match your ability, but make no mistake, smart strategy and top-notch navigation will determine who conquers the full course. And yes, it is both a USARA and AR World Championship qualifier. Looking for big terrain, real navigation, and that classic Adventure Addict spirit, Break the Habit should be on your calendar. You can find the link in the show notes or at adventureaddictsracing.com. That's right, folks. One word, adventureaddictsracing.com. Good luck, and we'll see you in West Virginia. Adventure Enablers, the leader in adventure race tracking, timing, and race directing, brings you the 2026 Shenandoah Epic Adventure Race, April 11th to the 12th. Registration is now open for the 15th year of one of the East Coast's longest-running 24-hour adventure races. Trek, bike, paddle, and navigate through Virginia's stunning Shenandoah Valley and the rugged Massanutten Mountain Range. New for 2026, multiple transitions that'll keep you moving and strategizing for the full 24 hours. Whether you're an AR veteran or hungry for your first epic challenge, this is your rite of passage. Push limits, chase sunrises, write your story in the wild. Register now at adventureenablers.com. That's one word, adventureenablers.com. All right, folks, here we go. Brian Gatens of the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast, episode 151. So we record episodes way in advance. Sometimes they go out in the blink of an eye. Sometimes we hold them for a while and we save them. This episode was a saver. This was recorded over a year ago with Cliff and Kate White of Strong Machine Adventure Racing. It was an evergreen episode. It can be dropped at any time. A fantastic episode with a great adventure racing organizing team. The Maine Summer Adventure Race is a must-do race here in the Northeast, and it's been successful, and it goes alongside so many other great races we have here in this corner of the country. So thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out for 151 episodes. We are delighted to share Cliff and Kate with all of you. We're delighted for the sirens going on outside because springtime has sprung here in New Jersey, and the windows are open. But at least the kids across the street stopped playing basketball, so you're not hearing that. So once again, sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. And remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking. Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Strong Machine Adventure Racing, Kate and Cliff White, are a couple. They're out of New England, and they are known for putting on some of the finest races on the east side of the United States. I've known Kate and Cliff for a long time. I've done their races. I've raced alongside them. I've seen them pass me often in races, and they are a delightful couple that I've been trying to get on the show for a while. I'm happy and I'm fortunate and I'm pleased that our schedules could come together and we have a chance to do this recording. So Kate and Cliff, welcome to the Dark Zone. We appreciate you coming on to the show. The first question I always like to put out there is, where do we get our team's name from, right? Strong Machine Adventure Racing. Walk us through where it came from, and then I'm going to ask about the developmental team, but tell me where your origin came from. How did you come to be?
So it's pretty simple, actually. My dad's a machinery dealer and his company is Strong Machinery. When we started racing in Wisconsin in 2012, 2013, he was our sponsor, which meant he paid our race entry fees for the local races we did. And we had cotton t-shirts with cheetah on them, I think. And the company's colors are blue and yellow, like the Swedish flag, and made it pretty easy when we started up the team to just go with Strong Machine AR.
So I like the strategy of naming the team after a family business and then like introducing the idea that the family business should then play some sort of support role for the team. You played the long game when it came to that.
That's right. I got to get in touch with him. His checks haven't been clearing lately. Yeah.
Which actually makes a lot of sense. And for the listener, I will put a link to this in the show notes and I'll put it on the front. Your logo is a machine.
Yes, it is.
All the pieces come together very early. We're a minute two into the podcast.
The name became sort of aspirational from there, strong.
So Strong Machine is Strong Machine. Now, as a couple, right, and we speak with couples who race together, what came first, the adventure racing or you being a couple? How did that work out?
Well, we met in college. So, I was 20 and Cliff was 21. But he was, we went to Colby up in Maine. And he was actually, he took a semester off to hike the Appalachian Trail. So he was a semester behind. So even though I was a year behind, he ended up staying for an extra semester. And then, when he graduated, he actually lived in my dorm room for an additional semester. So
all records are sealed. Financially, we're good.
I don't know if we want any other information.
Right. The RA is fine. Housing didn't care. Yeah.
If you think sleeping in a 2-man tent as a 4-person team is hard, try sleeping in a single dorm bed at Colby College for a semester.
You're in your 20s, you're fine. Doing nowadays, I'd be in traction.
Yeah. So we started adventure racing together. Yeah, well into our relationship, but pre-marriage.
You met in college, outdoor interests, shared pursuits, common thing. Where did adventure racing enter into a relationship? How did you learn about the sport? Where did you pick it up? Did you come together as a group, or did one of you find it and bring the other one along?
Yeah, I watched Eco Challenge with my dad when I was a kid, and
I watched it too. But,
did you?
Yeah.
Well,
but I forgot about it. And Cliff did not forget about it.
When I was 18, as a high school graduation present, my dad got me entry. Me and him and a friend of mine did the not balance bar. It was the tech, high tech adventure.
High tech, yep, sure.
In New York, and it was in the Bronx, and it was like a 5-6 hour race with silly challenges and inflatable kayaks. And it was so fun. It was really cool. That was kind of like a one-off. And then we did some races when we moved to Pennsylvania. My dad and I did a couple of quasi-adventure races, I would say. And then we did the one race in Ohio Pile.
This was all not me. I was grad student, too busy.
Well, you weren't really into the scene at that.
No, I wasn't. And I was we were laughing the other day. I could barely ride a bike at the time.
But we moved to Wisconsin in 2013. And there's a really lively adventure racing scene. And we found the Stubborn Fool adventure race online. And
Paula Waite, 180 Adventure.
Yeah. Our original adventure racing guru who got us into the sport, along with Rib Mountain, who was kind of Tim and Anna, along with their crew in Wisconsin, were kind of our savants who helped us integrate ourselves into the adventure racing community there, which is just a wonderful community. And we did Stubborn Fool, which is a 6-hour winter race in March. And I believe we finished, if not last, then second to last.
Really late, last and late. We were very late.
They're standing around, everyone's gone, the RD, cold pizza, the soda's warm.
Yeah, my friend, our fourth teammate who only did that one race, was insistent we try and stop at a restaurant along the way in a 6-hour race. And we vetoed that idea, but that didn't get him invited to the next race.
Yeah, as a guy that's ever turned down a good restaurant stop, even a 6-hour race feels a little short for me to be stopping to share that.
The race in T-Bus.
Yeah.
So he just was unprepared.
He was one of those one and done guys.
Yeah.
He'll listen to this and he'll want to do a rebuttal, right? He'll want to get on the show.
He would be a great guest.
Yeah.
Trust.
Oh, good. The world's greatest single race adventure racer. He's on. I'm going to book him. It's funny you mentioned that the high-tech adventure series in New York City and the Bronx and all of that. And, it feels like a different time and a different place, because I do know that in one of those races, and I don't think it was yours, they actually got permission to rappel off the Intrepid, which is the aircraft carrier in the Hudson River. Was that the race that you did, or was that a different race?
No, that was a 24-hour race, I think. That wasn't a high-tech, I don't think. But I could be wrong. But one connection I did get out of the race was the team that won the race, about 300 teams ahead of where we finished, was Team Guinness, which number one, best sponsor ever. But number two, the lady on the team was Tracy Cody, who is the Nordic coach at Colby College, where I end up working in the athletic department and getting to know her very well. So between her, in college, I did keep still in touch with the adventure racing scene. So that was a kind of cool connection to come out of that race, because we talked to her after the race and we were like, oh my God, how did you do that in 2 hours? And, she was very generous with her time and answers, and continued to be in college.
Well, that's always the case, right? I mean, you mentioned Paula Waite, who's been a very, very early guest on the Dark Zone. We had her on, I think, within the first 10 episodes. We're over 110 episodes now. We had Paula on in the community, and you mentioned Tim and Anna. They've been on the show. That we're a small community, but we find that people come back because they find that support, right? They cross the finish line and they talk to somebody who's like dry and packed up and hanging out and eating pizza. And they find that sense of community in there, and they're magnetized to come back to do it again because, and I'd love you to comment on this. You came in towards the back. You came in towards the end. And yet there was something in your head you were willing to go do that again, which is an uncommon response, right? The idea, usually when you're bad at something, let's use that phrase, right? You say to yourself, I'm done with that. But in adventure racing, time and time again, we have guests on the show and people I know who get clobbered and who then turn around and want to go back and want to try it again. Why do you think that is? What exists in the sport that makes it that way?
Yeah, I think you put that really well, Brian, and it's something that we still feel. It's that, like, I think Cliff and I are both this way. I think a good number of people are this way too. It's not just us, but like that feeling of like, this is something that's hard, but I think I can figure it out. Like, I mean, we were atrocious in that first race, and we didn't get much better for a while. So. And part of it was too, we were racing with Cliff down. It was such a fun way for us to just have this like fun kind of family weekend in the woods. So, in the beginning, we really weren't trying to be competitive. We wanted to be better just because it was more fun than being lost for hours. But I think what did happen for us is that each race we did get like incrementally better, and just, against ourselves would feel a little bit of improvement. And I mean, I think we're both super motivated by that kind of feeling of like, ooh, like that was so hard, but I got a little better this time. And I mean, we would speak for hours afterwards and just, digest every part of the race and, figure out, okay, how can we do that a little better? How can we do that a little better? And then to implement that next time. And we still do that now. I mean, that's very much why we still are, because it is hard is why we're excited by it.
I'll add to that. In Wisconsin, we got to race like every other weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
So, like, you're not waiting a year to try again. Like, you sign up and you're back on the line in 2 weeks, and it's a lot of the same people. And so you're getting to know people, and it's friend people are helping each other out as often adventure racing, and you're picking up tips from people who know what they're doing a little bit more than you. And that is a really important aspect that I think that's underrated or underappreciated in adventure racing, is just creating races that give people the opportunity to get to the sport and try to, I mean, like in Maine, and I'm jumping ahead, but when we moved here, there was no races other than one or two in Vermont by the Green Mountain Adventure Racing Association, a shorter winter race and a slightly longer summer race, which was 12 hours. And there was just not enough races for us. Like there was no, so that's really the impetus for starting our race, was to give people more races to do here. You can't race, you can't get better. And you can't sport. It's like the sport doesn't exist without the races, obviously. I know that sounds really basic, but no,
but it's true. Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. And I like the fact that you call out that it's the It's the 3, 6, 8, 12-hour races. It's the race that you could wake up early on a Saturday morning, go race. You could touch all the disciplines really quickly, X amount of checkpoints, be done that night, talk about it on the way home, recover on Sunday and go to work on Monday, and realize that you had a bigger weekend probably than mostly everybody you work with, right? There's that sense of pride. And there's any one thing with the dark zone that I think a lot about is that I'm magnetized to the big story. I'm magnetized to the epic story, the 3 days here, the 5 days there. But you're absolutely right that the heart and soul of adventure racing are those lower time races that just people that they come together time and time and time again. And to your point, being in Wisconsin and having the ability to race so often, and then you race and then you community and you sort of build those bonds, you want to go back. And it goes from being, and you touched on this a bit, Kate, it goes from being less of a social experience to being a competitive experience.
Yeah.
You want to get better. Yeah, you're right about that. Now, that being said, and you brought that up, you moved to Maine and you notice that there's a lack of races, right? You see Vermont, you have 2 races with G-Mar down there. Now, all of a sudden, Strong Machine comes along and we start putting on races. Walk me through the evolution of you being racers to being race directors. What was that like?
Well, we stumbled into it. We had an idea of like one day we'd like to organize a race, I guess. In theory, it was an idea that we had, but a friend of ours from college was the land manager for we have these things in Maine called land trusts, and they manage either one property or many properties in a certain region. And there's about, I think, 60 or 70 of them in Maine. One of these larger land trusts had just merged and had all these properties, and they wanted a race that would bring people to all the properties. And we said,
we can do that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, you're talking to the right people. We'll get you people.
We moved here in 2015, and we put our first Maine Summer Adventure Race on in June of 2016. It was an 8-hour race and a 3-hour race. And the 3-hour race was very much modeled on the high tech, in that there were a lot of silly challenges, many involving woodsman type logging.
It was like a logging property. So that
Gotcha. So you built the race into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But the 8-hour was, I'd say, a 24-hour course.
We just didn't know how to estimate how fast people were going to go.
Who knows? Right. That's like being a teacher and you're being observed. Like, have the lesson be like 2 hours long for a 45-minute lesson. You don't want to run out of, you're being observed. You don't want to run out of content, right? So go too far.
We had like a 12-foot section in that first race, an adult section that was also 4 hours, and a several hour bike section. So yeah, we kind of,
we're just showing our capacity. Yeah.
Right. You're aspirational.
Exactly.
So now you put on the 3-hour race, the 8-hour race. Clearly it went well enough that you wanted to come back and you wanted to do it again. What did you take out of that first race director experience that you really grew upon for the next one? You said, listen, we did this okay, but in order to because your races are very well regarded. I mean, it's not just you're on the show. I'm saying that people, they save your dates on the calendar. They want to come to your events. They really respect what Strong Machine does. What was your biggest growth point between year 1 and year 2 as a race director?
Definitely from year 1 to year 2. And then further, the years after that, I think we grew into it even more with like just how to go about figuring out a race course. Like, I mean, we used to show up at a place you thought would be cool and just like run off into the woods and try to find cool stuff, like very scattershot. And we've become, especially year 1 to 2, but then 2 to 3, 3 to 4, event, and exponentially more efficient in how we, because I think I will share after the first few races, I was like, I don't think we can do this. Like, we're busy people, and like, it's just, I mean, and we go to the same property like a dozen times to scout it, and I was like, we need to go on places. I'm getting like, feeling boxed in by this. So I think that we've learned a lot of tricks to make it more efficient. But I think on the scouting side, like those first, year 1, year 2 is like, we knew every inch of those properties.
What would lead towards like a 24-hour race, right? Because you and also you also had choice paralysis. You had so many things to choose from. You didn't know where to start.
Be really good at editing, and of course now we're even better. But that first year was just like we had to put everything that's cool that we find into the race. And now it's like, okay, well, we don't have to throw everything in. You can just do a few things and people still think it's cool, or we'll save that for next year or whatever.
And you evolved into 3 race formats. Now you have a 3-hour, 8-hour, 24-hour. And I want to talk a bit about that, but Cliff, I think you wanted to add something else there.
I was just going to say, you asked what the drive was to continue the race. And I think it was feeling that we were starting to create a community here in our own in New England. And it helped. We were new to the state. Like, we didn't know many people here. And so like we were creating friendships and creating a community that we wanted to exist that didn't really exist in Maine. So
yeah, it's funny. I've done races where it's a long drive home and the race director says, when you get home, can you text me that you got home? Right? They want like you look at these people as inside the race itself. You care for them literally, right? You create this environment for them to be safe and to be secure. But then you have this sense of ownership that like you've connected with them, and now I've sent texts at 1 o'clock in the morning, like, we're home now. And the race director like, thank you. And you feel good about that. Now you've gone to 3, 8 to 24, right? And there's that format 3 different times over. What do you find being obviously, I think you said before we started recording, the 8-hour race is very popular, right? People come, it's a good day out. It's a full day for them. You get to go home, and the post-race food is well earned, right? Because you're on the go for 8 hours. 3 hours sounds like a good intro race for a lot of people, right? I want to dip my toe in the water. Then you have your 24-hour crowd that comes out and is willing to do the whole McGilla, right? Stay out there for that big chunk of time. When you look at those 3 race formats, and your advice could be across all 3 of them, right? Or to you, it could be specific. When you look at the newer racer, what do you wish the newer racer thought about or knew before he or she got on that start line? What do you say to yourself? You know something? I wish I had whispered this in their ear a month ago. I wish I had said this to them.
Good question. Yeah, I think I want to just tell them to not panic, I think mostly. It goes really for the 3 and 24. The first time you sit down with the race materials, you get this course book and all these maps and everything, like really overwhelming, trying to squeeze it all in and everything. I think I tend to, and sometimes we kind of keep an eye out for teams that look like maybe they're newer. We might even know, who some of the newer teams are, and just sort of keep an eye out to give them some in the TAs, like a little bit of a just like, hey, like, right. It feels like you're not doing well or whatever, but like, you'd be surprised, like if you just keep moving, like, take a half an hour, and especially for, 24-hour, even 8-hour race, like take a half hour to collect your team, and like, you'd be surprised if you just keep moving, you're going to do better than you think.
Right.
I think it's just sort of like trying to bring that like worry and nervousness down a little bit, and that sense of like, oh gosh, we're, we got lost for an hour and our race is over. And it's like probably a lot of people got lost for even longer. So it's just, I think that often I want to just, and sometimes we'll even have little email exchanges or chats with newer racers before the race. We're trying to convey just that, like go in with, just open mind and don't put too much pressure on yourself, and you'll exceed your expectations.
Cliff, what do you think?
I don't really worry about people when they're at the race, because I trust that we're providing a good enough experience that they'll enjoy it. Like that's our job, and that's how we are going to try and grow the community. Is what I want is to try and get more people to hear about the sport. It's like even before, like I think about our website as 95% first time people being exposed to adventure racing. How are they going to experience that website? Because that's how most people find us. Really, I've been spending a lot of time just thinking about these person who's never heard of adventure racing before, who is open or amenable to the idea of doing it, stepping in the lane. How do we get those guys to step into the sport? Because I really do, and this is like maybe I just had 3 months off between jobs, so I had a lot of time to do some deep thinking, and just like the sport it's not like getting too much younger, and it's not getting too much bigger, and that's fun, but like, where is the sport going to be in 20 years? And I want more people to keep doing it. I don't want the sport to die.
I always, it's funny. I usually save this for later in the episode, but I know that you, Cliff, have to step out, take care of something else. So I want to ask this question now, and you led me into it. I always like to ask experienced both race directors and racers. And there's a part of this episode we're going to talk about the big races that you've done. We've been in these big races together, these multi-day expedition races that are to me are just story fuel. But when you look at the evolution of the sport itself and you see the direction that it's going and the thing is going, to your point, not really getting bigger and not really getting from an age spread, what does your collective gut tell you about the way the sport is moving? What direction are they moving in? You see growth, do you not see growth? Are we stuck? Is it a model that's the way it is? Do we run the risk of changing the model, that it's no longer adventure racing? Like it's a big question, but I know that you both think a lot about the sport. I'm curious about the way that you see it.
So I've kind of landed on the spot of, we just had Eco Challenge in 2019, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a Mark Wahlberg feature film.
Mm-hmm.
We've had there's been enough exposure where,
mm-hmm.
and we've seen some benefit from that, I think, but it hasn't completely blown away expectations.
That's a good point. Yeah, you would think with these big, huge pop cultural swings, you'd see some sort of organic growth come out of that, where in reality, it really hasn't moved the needle of that much.
Not long term. Short term, our registration year, we were one of the few races that could run during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Eco Challenge was blunted by that. And I think we could have had a much bigger boom out of that, and it was just suffocated by COVID. But I think adventure racing is, I think, proven itself that it's going to be a niche sport forever. Like, it's never going to be mainstream. Anyone who's talking about it being the Olympics is smoking something that's legal in Maine.
Right.
And it's never going to appeal to the masses as a participatory sport, maybe as
mm-hmm.
as a special on Amazon Prime. But to get people to the start line, I think you need niche personality that is not mainstream in US or world culture. And so how do we reach those people? It's easier than ever to reach people via whatever, social media or multimedia avenues we have. But I think we need to stop thinking about the sport as, at least in a participatory level, approachable to the masses. And how do we really target our audience more in a more considerate way to find those people who are willing to step onto a start line of a race in a sport they know very little to nothing about.
Right. Yeah, the personality of the group of people to the team sport, that somehow it could all kind of coalesce. Right. It's like we have the time off, we have the capital to afford the equipment, we have the modicum of fitness, we have all these things together. And then we have race organizations that are prepared to host us for 8 hours, 3 hours, 24 hours, right? All those things have to come together to get to the start line. Whereas in some sports, it's like, if you want to run a local 5K, you pay your online entry fee, you put your sneakers on, you go down there early, you pick up your number, you run your 5K, then you go home on a marked course. And right, to your point, like the idea that somehow the adventure racing will become the next mud run, whatever you want to call it, that kind of silliness, it simply doesn't exist. Our format's not built for that. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just the reality of the sport.
Yeah. And just to add a lot, I feel like we're doing the end of the show in the middle. So
mm-hmm.
The postmodern approach to the Dark Zone interview, but the work I've been working both with USRA, we just stepped off the board, and over the last 4 years, and then with ARWS as the North American coordinator for the past couple of years. And the US and USRA does a great job of organizing and collectivizing the sport but I don't think Americans realize how important the US market is to global adventure racing, and how even with that niche approach, the market is still not even close to being tapped for adventure racers in the US. I mean, you look at the number of backcountry skiers or mountain bikers or kayakers or whatever it is, the entree that's trail runners. And those numbers are exponentially higher than adventure racers. And of course, only a small sliver of anyone who participates in any of those sports will do adventure racing. But even with that small sliver, it's still much larger than our current audience.
Right.
So like the potential of that market is still there, even if it's a niche sport.
there's still a pool of people who do other things that are akin to adventure racing who choose not to adventure race. They choose to stay inside the window of their sport. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a big topic, right? A big thing to talk about, and how where the sport grows and how it doesn't grow. And just I've been involved with the sport now for roughly 12 years. I've been involved, and I've seen the sport grow. And in many ways, the sport still feels exactly the same it felt 12 years ago. It also feels really advanced from 12 years ago, right? And so it's interesting to have that and how that goes along. And I mean, I personally, as a consumer of the sport and as someone who pays attention to the sport, I love the fact that when USRA, they put out their Friday transition, they publish that, there's races just listed, race after race after race all over the country, right? And so there's so much of that we're able to see. Kate, what do you see as someone who is a race director, someone who's a race participant, you've raced around the world? What does your gut tell you about the evolution and the way you see things are going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I generally agree with the points that Cliff made and that you're making too. It's funny. I think a lot about what do we actually want, And I think that in my mind, the most important thing is just having a healthy sport, like in that, there's engagement, there's, enough growth to kind of keep some, new folks coming in. But also like, that we're not, honestly, sometimes I think about like if the Maine Summer Adventure Race was just flooded with entries one year, I don't know what we would do. Like, we're basically our race fills to capacity just about every year. So it's not like we could go much bigger than we would have to really just drastically change the way that we're doing things. So,
right.
So I don't think that we're going to be getting a whole lot bigger, but I also don't think that means that we're not like a healthy, robust sport. It's just that we are a niche sport, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's fine. Right. And it's all about the idea of the metric you want to use to measure satisfaction of being successful.
Yeah.
Right. And if you, and I think too, and I think that you and Cliff are a really nice example of this, is that you are a couple put on a very well regarded race. No one really makes their entire living off being an adventure race promoter. There's a very small group that actually does that. But for the most part, it's people who have industries in which they are able to pull the time out of their day-to-day jobs to put these races on. And you two are an example of that. That's one thing I had mentioned there. And yet you go and you do it, right? You take something out of the event itself, and it's worth all of the time and the trouble and the aggravation and the permitting and the map making and dealing with the questions and all of that kind of stuff. You come back to it time and time again. And I don't know, like I think about the sport the way it is. And if I said to myself, we need to triple adventure racing participation in the country to have a sense of satisfaction, how would we feel about it? What would we have to do to get that? I don't know if that's where we want to be. We're a niche sport. It is what it is. And we should be satisfied with it.
I mean, it's funny. I think about it too, like during COVID, a lot of more people were going out in the woods and doing things. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of bugged by it. I love going out on my trail run and seeing no one. Like, it's funny. I'm so torn. Like on the one hand, it's certainly a point of us being race directors is to help bring people into the sport. And also like within limits, like I love the idea of like getting people out into the woods. I talk to people about it all the time. I think it's important. And also if everybody went out into the woods, I don't know if I'd be all that happy at that. It actually, maybe adventure racing is like, there's a limit to,
You also have a very strong developmental program. And it's clear that part of your ethic and philosophy is to invest in the sport through bringing newer racers along. Tell us about the Strong Machine Developmental Squad.
Yeah, sure. So we have had we call it familiarly the Dev Squad for a number of years now. And really, I remember when we started it, we thought back to when we were beginning racers and how we just had so many questions, and it felt like we really needed mentoring. And there were, a handful of racers that really provided just so much mentorship to us that felt so, and I just don't think we could have really continued in the sport without it. And it's hard. I mean, you see it from, it's nice. I think that there are certain things like the AR discussion group on Facebook and, other places where people can be asking questions, which is great. And sometimes it's really nice to have just that smaller group discussion. So, it's evolved a bunch over the years that we've offered it, and it's kind of waxed and waned with interest and with our, time to put into it. But we always try to involve some amount of and maybe this is my professor backed, but like a didactic component, seminars on the topic, whatever. But we also had, have a lot of just informal discussion. And, a big part of it also is just getting a group of committed racers. That's what we've noticed in our own development of our own team, our race team is, how important it is to have a core group of people who are going to prioritize AR in their lives and with their scheduling. So, with the dev squad, similarly, it was like, all right, we're going to have, 8 people who are going to commit to prioritizing adventure racing, for the next year. So yeah, it was a lot. It's been a lot of different things. And now, some of the racers on our dev squad are starting to race with our core team too, which has been kind of a fun way to just sort of set people up, when they have the interest, especially in doing longer races or racing a little more competitively. So yeah, it's been a fun way to and we also have a Strong Machine AR club on Facebook, which anybody's welcome to join if anybody's listening, which else is another place just for kind of, some discussion and mentoring kinds of opportunities. So yeah, that was the goal.
When you develop Dev Squad, and I know there's an application process, you bring people onto that. What was your selection process like? What were you looking for in aspirational members that you said to yourself, we know you're going to grow in the sport. We know you're going to get better, but we need to have these baseline expectations in place before we invite you onto the squad. What were you looking for there?
Yeah, for us, we were trying to be practical. And, just honestly, geographics was a big part. Geography was a big part of it. Like having people who are all located in New England, just because that way, at least we know they'll be able to attend some of the same races together. We also, in addition to kind of practical stuff, I think we were really targeting people who were very new to adventure racing, but very excited by adventure racing. So I think we had a limit of 10 races or less. They couldn't have done more than, a relatively small number of races. But also, enthusiasm was big and some kind of proven fitness background of some kind. It didn't have to be any particular thing, but just, again, sort of showing commitment to being able to train for it. But yeah, I think enthusiasm was really kind of the biggest driver beyond being located in the area.
Yeah, clearly you were hiring. I put that in quotes to people at home. You were hiring based on you were prioritizing attitude over act. Yeah. Right? You said that eventually they'll grow into it. And as a result of that ability, they'll then be able to do it. But the trick was to get the person on board who had that ability, as opposed to the reverse of that, because we both know that there are people in all sports, but adventure racing too, that have a high level of aptitude, but their attitude is terrible. And you're like, get these people away from it. Right. Which is why the fittest team is not always the winning team.
Nope.
Right. Having that skill set is not there. Clip, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a mix. The Dev Squad has morphed and changed over the years. We definitely started it with the idea of we just want to get more people into the sport, and this is a good way to create. We found a main barrier to entry was that people couldn't find people to race with. That we were getting tons of emails from people who were like, "This sounds really cool. I don't know who I would do this with, and I'm afraid to do it alone." So that's one of the main drivers of creating the Dev Squad was helping to hopefully create these nuclei of teams, which we've been really, bowled over and joyful about how many squads the Dev Squad has spawned.
Right. Well, it grows out from there, right? They have good experiences together and they pick up other people along the way.
Totally. And there's a time limit. You can only be on the team for, I think, 2 years. And so we graduate you don't stick around. You got to go into the world and hopefully they're, finding at least 1 or 2 people on the team that they have a racing bond with, and they can form their own team and then, spin that off. So a big milestone for us was we had our first Dev Squad member join our quote unquote pro team. I don't know if any racers are actually pros, but our official race team, and that's Kara Witherill. And we are so proud to have her on the team. I need to give her a huge shout out. She has just risen to everything we've asked of her, and we've thrown her into some deep ends like the Two Rivers race, which is a 30-hour race, and high-profile North American Championship and all that. And we're throwing her to Endless Mountains.
Yes, she's coming to Endless this year.
So that's been really cool. And we have other folks who have been racing, Derek and Kate. They've been kind of the core nucleus of that development squad team that have just shown like they're carrying on our name with such panache that we're so proud of that. I think if you look back, like Technu AMK had a dev squad of sorts, and they had a lot of really good racers come through that dev squad. Garrett Bean, I know, was one who he won the national championship a couple times. It's a different type of thing that we're doing with our dev squad, but it is still really cool when you see people rising to that competitive level, a technical level and mindset level to be able to jump into a race with Glenn Lewis, shouting at you to go faster, and you can handle that.
A few racers who, really, when they joined the dev squad, were like, I don't know about this 24-hour thing, but we tell them, hey, we're going to give you a free entry to the Maine Summer Adventure Race 24-hour race. And that was another cool thing, just seeing some of our dev squad members basically, committing to this 24-hour event that felt like it was way bigger than they could have done. But then, we had a bunch of meetings leading up to it, and then we did a debrief after it. And during the race, we're in the TI being like, you could do it. And afterwards, I'm just being like, oh my gosh, we did it. And, Heather actually comes to mind as then, signing up for nationals and doing a 30-hour race. And it's just cool to see with that little extra support, how people can just dive in pretty deep.
Whatever their journey is, like wherever they end up in the sport, like that's awesome. As long as they're in the sport. That the saddest thing to me is if people do the dev squad and they like don't sign up for any races that we're paying the entry for, and then they like disappear. And we're like, what was all that about? Granted, people have life happens. We understand, but we want, the whole point is to get people excited about adventure racing, whatever capacity. So that's why we do this in general. And Heather's another great story. And she, if you haven't read her blogs,
Heather-C, she has some great Facebook summaries.
You will cry with inspiration at Heather's race experience.
I think this is why adventure racing is sticky for so many people. It's more than just a physical pursuit. It's more than just a mental pursuit. It's more than just an emotional pursuit. Rather, it's all of those things that come together. And if you're on the race director side, and if you're on the racer side, there's something that is just soul enriching, almost spiritual, about seeing a person who they realize that they could be more than they think they are. And this creates the avenue to do that. You mentioned about the team, 24-hour race. I don't know. You give them some stoke when they're in the TA, and all of a sudden, like they cross that finish line. And this is the biggest thing they've ever done. And you help to facilitate that as an experience, right? I think that's we don't talk enough about that adventure racing. We see it just purely from the maps, compasses, woods, push your bicycle thing. But to be witness to people being more than they think they can be is just such a powerful thing. And you see it time and time again inside the sport.
Imagine if it's your wife. I mean, the fact that our relationship started pre-adventure racing and really pre any kind of endurance athleticism to where we are now and where Kate is now, like, holy cow, like that'll make a relationship work.
Well, exactly, because you feel because you know you're strong in a really positive way, strong in a good way, like I can do this thing because this thing is hard. I can now do this other thing in my life that is hard also because you realize you have capacity. That's what it teaches you.
Like maybe you're a strong machine.
Exactly. Work that in. Minute 42 and a half. You work that in. Very nice. I am personally obligated to myself to talk about races and big racing. And I know that you've both done some big races around the world, around the country. I don't want to be guilty of choice paralysis here, but what race do you want to talk about? A big race that you did. And I've seen you in some of them, and I've read about some that you're in. When I say to you, like, here's like a Rorschach test. When I say to you, big race, what pops in your head right away? Cliff, go.
You're going to say the Faroe Islands. So I'll say, South Africa. And not necessarily in like a best race, just you said big race. So
yeah, I mean, big race,
10 days of racing through the desert. And then like we nearly froze to death one night. So like the hottest I've ever been in a race for like 8 days, and then the coldest I've ever been in a race for 30 to 40 hours.
And you're talking the worlds that were just there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And on top of all that, like we went unofficial on the first night of the race.
You lost Evan to a broken collarbone.
Yeah, and a concussion, which is the funnier. I mean, it was just a concussion, but he kept repeating the same thing over for like 3 hours while we're waiting.
Hey, we've all been there.
It's kind of, yeah, like to continue unofficial for 9 more days and to go through what we went through, that'll hard me up. Like, there's a reason I didn't do any expeditions this year. Like, I needed like a year to
You got your fill.
But yeah, you talk big race. That's one.
And that was just, and just for the listener that's out there, and I'll share a bit of the story, and I want you to close any gap for me by telling. Evan Morsehead, who's a member of the team, it was the first day of the race, right? You look at 9-10 days of racing in the face. You were going down a pretty chunky downhill section, and memory serves me correct. I remember hearing about this in real time, that he went over the handlebars, concussion, collarbone, and it just, what was that like for you as a team? Did you think your race was done? How hard was it to keep going? What were you psychologically like? That's first of all the lead up to get to the race, and all of a sudden you're hours into it, and your race is over from a placing perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing, and you're kind of in denial for a little while. But when the guy starts repeating the same thing over and over 100 times, you're like, there's no way he should continue racing. Plus his shoulder messed up. So like clearly he wasn't going to race anymore. It was pretty obvious immediately. And it's a pretty easy call at that point. But it's a much harder call to continue racing after that.
And obviously you went as a 3. You were allowed to continue as a 3.
Yeah, which was nice. We struggled in the next TA about motivation, and it was a really weird TA, just trying to get our minds around what we still needed to get done if we wanted to stay in the. I think it's really frustrating because that's what the sport is. Like, you lose one teammate and you're out, even though it was like totally, I don't like that we had to get eliminated, but I understand,
Right. The rules are the rules.
So like, totally, I get it. But, just having to lock back in, and then day 7, day 8, Scott got horrible diarrhea, and it was like, he wanted to continue. And, we're like,
what was it like to race for 7 days? Like, we've done 5s. But like the jump from 5 to 7, like to 9 to 10 must feel like you must felt like you're just living out there now. Like this is my home. And there's no other world outside of here. I'm just an eating, moving machine.
Yeah. And with 100 teams, with like 50 of them having diarrhea, it was a pretty smelly home. It was a pretty messy trail. But South Africa was amazing. That made it easier. The race organization, you only get one chance to like go that far and race. So like we wanted to make the most of it. And it lived up to every expectation we had, and it was amazing. And just on a personal level, from an adventure racing perspective, it just taught me a lot of lessons about how to be a good teammate and how to persevere and how to get through 10 days of that. So I came out of it a much stronger racer, I think.
Love that. Kate, how about you? Go.
Well, it's funny. I was between Faroe Islands and Spain, but I think I'm actually going to say Spain because it was also my ARWC experience. And I think it was, in terms of a big race, I think this is probably what Clip experienced in Africa too, is like, just literally racing with over 100 teams felt really wild, like having people, so many people, but also with, the ARWC sort of tradition of ARWC having usually some really epically long stages. Spain was my first race where I had just the opening track was, I think.
Yeah.
It was,
that was long. So the dark zone, the dark zone started right around that race. So the first ARWC we covered was that race. There was the trek, and was there something with like ski lifts and bicycles or something in that race?
Yeah. There was sort of like a point after the end of the first opening track that we split into two sets of two, and one set did a downhill mountain biking, which was, kind of a funny scene. Just, it was like frigidly cold. There was like sleet and it was dark. And we sent Jay and Michael Garrison up to, do this downhill mountain.
Come get them, guys. We'll be here.
And I did the zip line, which was explained entirely in Spanish, and neither of us spoke Spanish. And we didn't realize, it didn't tell us at the end that it had an auto stop. Right. And both of us separately on our zipline experiences realized we hadn't been told how to brake at the end. And I remember flying towards the end of the zipline being like, oh my God, am I supposed to
if there's something
on something, how am I supposed to stop? So I was like, I didn't die. But anyway.
Guess what? I'm going to stop somehow. It's going to happen.
I left it out better than could have been.
Oh my God. I heard that this Spain, if I remember correctly, and if the listeners go back, Richard Sparks tells a great story about his race because his team disintegrated early on and crazy stuff. That was a long race. They were out there for a long, the distance that had to be covered was really long.
Yeah, it was really long. And our team finished on the last day. So we were 7 days out there. And I think in the end, for me, it was my 5th expedition race. And it felt like kind of a milestone for me. And when I finished that race, I was like, all right, if I can do this, I think I can do just about anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the benefit of and I'm gonna retract what I said earlier about sometimes the Dark Zone talks too much about the big races. But I will tell you that I think the reason I'm magnetized to the big races is far less about the rah-rah machismo. Look at me, I did all this big stuff. And more about the idea that when you finish a 5-day race, you are a different person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Absolutely. I think, too, that was the first expedition that I had done without Cliff. And I had our son Wilder at home with him. And it was the first extended period of time where I had been away from him in a while. And it just sort of felt like, I remember being out there on the long trek. And for me, typically the first 36 hours of an expedition race is hard. Once I settle in, I tend to actually, it gets better for me.
So it's always day 3. Once you get to day 3, you can race in 30 days if you have.
And I'm like, I can go broke. And I remember being out there on that first trek and looking around. I had 3 great teammates. We had a great time together. But I remember being like, who can I talk to about the fact that, I don't know if I can do this right now.
Right.
Need to.
Yeah, you're looking around and you say to yourself, if I fall apart here, who am I going to? Who's my outlet? Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And hey, their credit, they all sort of, helped me through it. But there was a moment, actually, Michael Garrison will remember the moment where I was like, can you just maybe leave me? We're at this very distinct big river. And I was like, just leave me here and you guys keep moving. And I'm pretty sure that the race directors will be able to find me because I'm on such a big feature that just let them know at the next TA that this already left me.
It's like the stage of acceptance. You're at the bargaining stage.
Yeah.
Right. There's anger and there's just this is comfortable here. And you guys, I don't want to, then that's the famous, I don't want to slow you down.
Smoother if you just leave me. I'm hydrated and right by the river.
Yeah. Guys, it's really for the best. I think I'll sacrifice for you. I'll stay here. I did a race one time. I did a 24-hour race and one of our teammates we're at the start of the race and she's sick. She has a cold.
Oh yeah.
And I guess we're going, right? We're going. And we were 2.5 hours into the race and it was just nuclear bad. And it was hour 16 and she's like, leave me here. And we're we're not leaving you here. That's not happening. You're getting here. The nice thing about that was that we checked off all the mandatories and then we got to park ourselves by the last TA fire for 2 hours.
Yeah.
All those suckers came in and couldn't go near the fire because don't go near the fire. But we did. And we were the 3 of us were laying on the hot rocks on the fire. That was the best part. But we're we're not leaving you here. Get going. You're going.
Oh, totally. But it's so hard. I think the great thing is you have an experience like that. And then, the rest of the race, there were obviously other loads, but overall it felt awesome. And we finished and we were so proud. And I was so proud of, myself and our team and all of that. And just to know, and I think, it took so much from that moment to be oh, right. I can get this low. And like, there are very few times in my life I've ever been as low as I was at that moment.
Right.
And to be like, I can get that low. And then I can actually, come out of it and feel pretty damn good afterwards. Even like euphoric, on the other end of it. But of course, like in this race, you get both ends very intensely.
Well, I remember you and I having a great conversation in Ozark at the pre-race meal, saying how when you do this big stuff and you go back into the regular world, if you will, that when someone's complaining to you about a problem that they're having, you're kind of like, it's tough to it's tough to build sympathy. It's like, okay, like it's gonna be okay. We'll get through that. We'll get more copy paper. Like it's gonna be okay.
As Brian, because I'm a therapist, so I need to like cultivate empathy.
You'll be fine. You right through it. So what is now? And I know that Cliff has stepped off the interview to go do his thing. So what does the horizon for Strong Machine? You got the race coming up, 3/8/24. Wholeheartedly endorse the Strong Machine race. It's a wonderful experience. They always make it a point because of their access to so many big features in Maine. You never know where you're going to get. They change the location. So completely consider Maine Summer Adventure Race if you're sitting here, you're looking for a good thing to do in this season coming up. But what's the team looking at? Are we endless mountaining? Are you going to go to World? What's the plan?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the endorsement. And I will say we're very excited to be moving the Maine Summer to the Western Mountain Maine this year. So we're based in the Bethel area, which will be pretty awesome. But
that's a gorgeous area. That's a really beautiful spot.
There's really pretty epic terrain there. We've got I think a very exciting race calendar for our team coming up. We're going to be doing as many of the local races as we can. So we'll be doing Tug Hill in upstate New York is doing a 24-hour race this year. So to check that out. We'll be, unfortunately, I don't think we can get to Longest Day because it's right before one of the expeditions we're doing this year.
Yeah, there's a bit of a scheduling tightness in there for a lot of people.
Little tight, yeah. And then we will have a team obviously at our own race Maine Summer. But our three big races of the year, we have Endless Mountains coming up in June. We're going to do Iterra in Scotland in August.
The full Iterra, you're doing the 5-day.
Well, yeah. This will be our third Iterra.
Great race.
And then we'll do nationals, of course, in Arkansas.
Gotcha. Yes, and then obviously I'm sure along the way things might pop up here and there, and Strong Machine will continue to have a strong presence in all of our sports. Well, Kate, thank you for going on to the show. Thank Cliff. I know that he's out doing grown-up stuff right so he can't be here, but best of luck to Strong Machine, and thank you for being the guest.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate your time and all you do for the sport.
Thanks to Cliff and Kate for coming on to the show. Check out those show notes for all of their links, and thanks for being here. We're going to keep talking because you're going to keep racing. So be safe out there, and we can't wait to see you on the race course. Go get them.